Well, I must be going, got a game at 3. Then kids to be tutored, they're counting on me. It's a brand new century, and we're rocking. We paid our dues all those years, and it's so nice to be switching gears. It's a grand new century, and it's the senior life, the senior life, the senior life for me.
Welcome to In Praise of Age, a program produced by seniors, for seniors, on topics of interest to seniors. My name is Bobbie Lubker. I'm host for today. Our conversation today, anytime, is travel time. Today we'll talk with Jean Holcomb, our first guest in our locally owned businesses series. Jean is founder and president of Viking Travel. She and I are going to be talking about many aspects of travel and how it's booming for retirees. Now, I want to explain the title. Anytime is travel time. Used to, we traveled only in the summer when we went on vacation. And now we can travel any time of the year. And used to, we thought that we could travel only when we were young or when we had small children or when we whatever. Now people of any and every age travel. So anytime is travel time. Jean, welcome to In Praise of Age. Let's learn a bit about you. I know that you've had this travel agency. How did you happen to start a travel agency? Why?
Well, I think, Bobbie, after 20 years of volunteering, I would say the first 20 to 22 years of my life in Chapel Hill, I served as a volunteer. And through that experience, I learned many skills. I was a teacher originally, so I wanted to keep on learning. And after those 20 or 22 years, I thought I needed to get into a different part of the community, especially because it appeared, or seemed to be, that there was a great gap between the university community and the business community.
Your husband was with the university?
My husband was with the university, and during the 20 years that I spent volunteering for university and community, it seemed to me that there needed to be someone who might help to bridge a gap.
To have a toe in both ponds.
Right. And so I began to think about 30 years ago, where could I best fit into the business community, having spent the previous 20 years in the volunteer community? And so that's how we came to think about where would we best fit.
And a travel agency seemed to be the thing to do.
Well, it seemed to be where there was a need.
Okay.
For a more professional, I thought about a bakery. Friends wanted me to be a realtor. Charles Wortman, who was then head of the Wachovia Bank here, wanted me to go into banking. So I had lots of things to discover about myself and my own talents.
Well, now, you said 30 years. Do you really mean 30 years? Have you had an anniversary, a 30-year?
Yes, October 15th of 2009 matched 30 years from the day we opened in 1979.
Tell us where you're located.
We're located in the Galleria Shopping Center, just down from the Purple Puddle and Mina's Salon. And
up the hill from Fido?
And almost next to Fido,
okay.
as well as the new jeweler, Bill. I think it's B&B Jewelers.
Oh, I know where that is. Yes.
It used to belong to somebody else, but
yes.
He's a fine jeweler and a delightful young man.
I think my Christmas present came from there. So now these are relatively recent quarters.
2 years. We've been in this location 2 years. We were over closer to what is now Whole Foods for 28 years, and we're very happy there. But as Whole Foods needed to expand, we thought that was a good time for us to change our address.
Well, we hope people will find you because a lot of people know about where you were. Now, we're talking about 30 years, and any time is travel time. How has travel changed in the last 30 years? What do people look for? Where can they go? Who travels now?
Well, first of all, more people travel today than ever traveled 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, the average traveler was middle-aged to senior citizens who then had time to travel, who had the funds to travel. Now today, everybody travels. Families travel with their children, young children, as well as teenagers. People are exploring the world, and more, all age groups are involved in activity.
There is so much out there. There is Holland American, and there's Viking, and what do people choose? How do they go about this?
Well, I think they certainly, when they deal with a travel agency or travel agent, they tend to do that if they really want some help in making their own decisions.
Okay.
That's what we do. We don't make decisions. We help or assist our clients to make the decision as to what is best for them, meaning that we offer them the knowledge and information about various opportunities.
So if I wanted to go to Peru, you would be able to help me choose a company? Is that what it would be called?
Well,
or
whether you wanted to do it independently or whether you wanted to see South America on a cruise, which would go all around the coastline of South America, or you might, as a young client of ours did recently, in fact, my granddaughter, who's graduated from college, did an eye-to-eye travel experience, which is voluntourism.
Oh, for goodness
And
sakes.
voluntourism, in her group of about 15 or 20 who participated in 6 weeks in a mission-type travel program, there were senior citizens also in her group.
So you're telling us that there is more to travel, there's more available to travel these days, not just getting a cabin on a boat or going to a hotel or that kind of thing, that there are other travel.
Absolutely.
Now, well, I think you've answered this, but your granddaughter is, what, early 20s, but then there were older people in the group also.
Yes, there were 50s to 70 people, 70-year-olds in her group, and they were, her assignment happened to be teaching English, and she had to be certified for this before she went. And the program of Eye to Eye gives them that opportunity. She had to really do classwork before she could go. She was teaching English to a foreign language.
Oh my goodness. Well, that certainly tells us that travel has changed in ways that I was unaware of. What do you consider to be, now that was clearly a highly varied group that she was with, but I would assume that there are commonalities among being a good traveler, no matter how you go about it. What are 4 or 5 of the most important points for travelers, new travelers and experienced travelers?
Well, I would say flexibility is very important.
Okay, flexibility.
And being able to take diversity within a group and being able to accept the ways of a different culture. If a culture doesn't use sheets on the bed but only comforters with covers on them, you can't insist that the chambermaid put sheets on your bed. So it is, and I've heard that. I mean, I've heard that argument from someone who said, oh, well, they just didn't make the beds like I make them at home. So one has to be very one has to be very flexible
and prepared for diversity.
Yes.
Yes, I understand both of those. And then if you wanted some local fast food place, you just ought to stay at home because they might not have it.
Well, really, if you want everything you have at home, then you're not prepared to travel internationally into a different culture.
Or maybe even in some parts of our own country.
That's correct.
Because foods are different. And what do people complain most about? Maybe I shouldn't ask you.
No, I don't think that's a good question.
Okay. What do people like most? Maybe we could say that. In all of travel, what kinds of things make them just glow?
Oh, well, they like beautiful scenery. They like nice accommodations. They like hospitable people. They like diversity of food, gourmet. Right now, it's very trendy to go to a place where they can have cooking lessons or a series of wine seminars. That's just as trendy as to say, oh, I want to go ballooning or I want to be on a barge because I want to get away from all the mobs of people that I see at the supermarket or at the like at South Point Mall or whatever at home.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have asked you the question about complaining, but there are those people who find fault everywhere, aren't there?
Oh,
and
yes.
I bet the complainers make up a group of their own, not necessarily
Yes,
what it's about.
nothing's right.
Nothing's
but
right.
it's nothing's right before. They're the type of person who's nothing's right before they go.
Okay, I know those people. Lots of retirees who are watching this program are, in fact, experienced travelers. Do you encounter travelers who seem to think they might know more than you do and who want to take over?
Absolutely.
What do you do about that?
Well, you listen. I think listening is a very, very, very important component.
That's
to,
another commonality.
to everything we do in life. The ability to listen to someone else and then to try to sort through that listening into, well, how can we help you?
Oh, now that's a good point. So I'm writing these down. Diversity, flexibility, listening, and I've put non-complaining, and then it's your responsibility to help turn these, I don't want to call them know-it-alls, but these people who don't know what their knowledge gaps are, to help them.
Because things are quite different today in travel.
Okay.
You know, they may have experienced France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, any place else in the world 30 years ago. It is not the same today. They're not going to find the same approach to the culture of that country. It's a whole different world.
Mm-hmm. And they have to be prepared for that.
Yes.
Even though they're experienced travelers, they have to be with these very characteristics.
And the other thing that I think sometimes, particularly as we approach our older years, we think we can do things that maybe we shouldn't do as a traveler, or we shouldn't get into a situation that might be concerned about safety, personal safety. Going to places that we might have done when we were 20 with a backpack, or even in our 40s with or without children along. It can be a very frightening experience today. One needs to be more cautious.
You and I hadn't discussed this at all, but aren't cruises of every kind more popular and more available than they've ever been?
They certainly are.
Notice I said of every kind. I'm leery of the Caribbean, for example. I shouldn't be, should I?
No, not if you're on the right kind of vessel for you.
Right, okay.
For you, you know, every vessel, every size ship does not appeal to everyone. So, so the time that you might spend with me in conference would depend upon helping us work through what are you really looking for.
You know, that's exactly what we did. My husband and I went to see Jean, and we wanted to go to Europe to some special places, lots of special, specific places, and that's when we sat down and she helped us plan something that was perfect for us. It was when we went down the Rhine.
Right.
And we were on a smaller riverboat.
Right.
And had a lot of freedom to do whatever we wanted to do, but really good structure also, and it was safe.
And it was safe, and that's the important thing. I did a river cruise myself last October, and I found it very casual. I thought there would be more seniors aboard than there were, but we had two honeymoon couples.
Oh my goodness.
One young honeymoon couple had come from Australia, and another one from China. To take a European river cruise.
And we've said as we get older, these things might change. I'm becoming more and more interested in more travel within the U.S. Are there cruises in the U.S.?
Well, there are some. There tend to be more on small vessels along the inland waterway, maybe up the Hudson, maybe on the west coast on the Columbia River. But basically those are small ship vessels and don't carry a lot of people and don't have the same elements as what we would call a cruise in a mid-sized ship.
Okay. Jean also helped us go on the Queen Mary, which was not a cruise but a crossing, and that suited us perfectly. So what kinds of changes can you help people make if they get in their approaches? Well, I think you've already answered some of that to choose something that's safe for your time of life and your situation and where you want to go. What about off-season travel? We are, my husband and I are often looking for something in the autumn or early spring. Is that a change in travel?
No, I think that how you cope with whatever weather conditions might be would tell you whether or not you were making the right choice in traveling to a cold climate in January, February, or March, which may not be pretty because the leaves might be off the trees, the temperature might be damp. For instance, in Venice, in that time of year, you might have floods. But if you were going to Tuscany, you might find it very pleasant.
Okay.
So,
and then also skiers. And
right.
people who like the winter sports, that would be totally
Right.
appropriate for them, wouldn't it? What range of services, and you've hit on this a little bit, can an experienced travel agent offer to travelers? I hear people say, oh, I'm going to get on something online, and I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I use the computer every day. But you have access to all of that also,
yes,
don't you?
And we often can find fares lower through our services than the average client can find online. They also are not able to choose very quickly. They don't know the pairings of cities, so therefore they don't, if they're looking only for price, they may find out that they're changing planes 2 or 3 times before they reach their destination. So you're certainly welcome. Anyone who comes in to our office is welcome to sit down and say, well, I found such and such. I can get to Paris, or I can get to Milan or Rome or wherever. I had a call this morning from someone who said, I have found fares to Copenhagen for such and such. Can you tell me, can you do better? Well, yes, we could.
Well,
on the same airline that the client had priced out. So buying online doesn't mean that those people haven't added additional costs to the fares
right.
that they are promoting.
Well, Jean helped my husband and me with the flying to Scotland last summer, and I got on a website, and people were saying, how can I get a ticket that's cheaper than whatever, and they kept sending this person to various other websites, I guess, and I finally got in there in the conversation, and I said, we went to a travel agent and we got less than anything that's been posted on this.
Well, I think it's because we can do it more quickly. We have 2 people in our office, one who does nothing but air. She does corporate air. She'll do air internationally. She's been doing it for over 25 years. She knows how to find the right airline for the right individual.
My husband's birthday is going to be while we're on board ship. What can you help us plan for that?
Oh, well, we can plan a reception. You can have champagne. You can have a special celebration. You tell us what you want. We could have your stateroom festooned with balloons.
Oh, festooning. I love festooning.
Well, I'm just trying to think of what would be the appropriate word.
That's perfect.
You tell us what you want, and he could be given a gift certificate for a spa treatment, which he might really enjoy.
He might. I have to be careful of who's in the spa, those situations. I'm in Atlanta, and I want to sail from New York. Can you help me get from Atlanta to New York on time?
Of course. Whether you're going to sail from the East Coast, from the South, or the West Coast, you'll want to be sure that you're not buying your airfare too close to the embarkation time. Very often people think they can do it in 2 hours today, and the airlines are really it's very important that you give yourself enough time to make connections, to do it in a sensible manner.
I didn't ask you about this, or I don't mean to surprise you, but have you helped any famous people travel, other than me?
Oh, you're the most famous person we have.
Oh, most famous person. No, never mind. Have you helped any famous movie stars? Have you helped any?
Well, we have been very fortunate to help some people who have come into and out of Chapel Hill, mostly from New York, who are part of the University Playmakers productions.
Oh, yes.
So we have indeed, on occasion, helped some famous people.
Well, that's good. And you ought to get their autographs and put them on your wall. And now, in talking about travel, what about children? Do children travel well, and are there places for folks to go, and is that different from what it used to be? I don't know.
Well, I think we started traveling with our children when they were young, took their first trip to Europe when they were 4, 6, and 8. A friend absolutely thought I was off the wall to do this, and my response was, well, I wouldn't do it without them, and there were so many things and wonderful opportunities we had because we had children with us. So family vacations have truly, in the last 30 years, become very much the thing. In fact, there's one company that features programs called Bridges, where they actually encourage parents, grandparents, and children. And I have done that twice with my teenage grandchildren. I've taken 2 grandchildren who were cousins, not siblings, purposely, so that cousins would get to know each other a little bit better through a travel experience in a culture that was not foreign, that was foreign to them and not part of what they have here in Chapel Hill.
Well, you've answered part of my question. I have friends who are grandparents who have taken each of their grandchildren in turn to Europe. And then another couple we know, they have taken their grandchildren to, I believe, historic sites in the U.S. Is this a relatively new trend in travel?
Well, I would say so within the last 10 years. And it's very well blocked out. It's very comprehensive, and it gives parents or grandparents with children or grandchildren a chance to really not only work together, but to see how much fun they can have doing similar things.
What would be a lower age limit, maybe, for that kind of experience?
Well, normally 6.
Okay, good. Yes.
I would say normally
And
6
people
is...
who know children would understand why.
It's a little bit hard to have infants on a multi-generational program with other people.
Right.
It's would just be inhibiting in some directions, and time might be a problem.
And their needs are quite different.
And their needs are very different.
6-year-olds are pretty good people. They've begun to read, and they've begun to make their own decisions, or would like to. And yes,
I think one has to be cautious about this and be sure that the group is not going to be too large. I happened to be in the Uffizi 2 summers ago with a grandchild in their 20s. So we were a mature partnership. And I saw another company who also does multi-generational programs bring in 50 people, the youngest of whom had no idea why they were there and couldn't keep up. And I thought that was not only unfair to the total group and to the older members of that group, as well as the adults in the group, but it was very unfair to the younger children. They didn't know why they were there or what there was that was important.
So 6 sounds good. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, are there older people, in fact, that you would discourage from traveling? Because I've known people who travel in wheelchairs.
Well, there are types of travel where wheelchair travel is not only easily done, but fun for everybody.
You and I did a trip together recently when there was a person in a wheelchair with us, but that was a bus trip, so that would be a kind of travel that...
And cruises today also. We have sent one family on a cruise with an individual for whom we ordered 36 tanks of oxygen.
Oh my goodness.
So that was what was needed to prepare that person for the length of time they were going to be aboard the cruise ship.
But a travel agent can facilitate
The
this.
travel agent we have the facilities for making all those kinds of arrangements, and they must be done if we have someone who has special needs.
What kinds of things do travel agents, what kind of training do they have? If I don't know a travel agent, what should I look for in one?
Well, I would hope that you would look for someone who has, one, been in the business for a while, has associations, professional associations, that will give them some accreditable background.
Okay, and what are some of those associations?
Well, the American Society of Travel Agents is one of them. Being a member of CLIA, which is Cruise Lines International. We attend seminars all the time. We have availability for training on the web as well as travel opportunities. So it's important that the person you're dealing with, Bobbie, is knowledgeable, is caring, and is listening to you.
And is listening, and we go back to that. Now, Jean brought some goodies here. I don't know whether we're going to have time to look at them or not, but before we close out, we've just got another couple of minutes. You're going to be seeing on the screen a telephone number so that if you have more questions about traveling, about how to find a good there it is on the screen, about how to find a good travel agent in another city, or about starting to travel, or about becoming a better traveler, there's her phone number. Now, do we have a minute or so? Jean, pick out one or two things that we might show folks.
Well,
right
for
quick.
those who haven't been to Alaska, that is
Okay.
a beautiful state, and everybody should have the
You're gonna show
experience.
it over here.
Everybody should have the experience of seeing the wilderness of Alaska. Even my 6-year-old grandchild, on his first visit with me to Alaska, said, "It's awesome, Mormor. It's awesome." So I think that going to Alaska is something we all should experience in our life.
And that's part of the US of A.
But if you're looking for paradise, I don't care whether you're 18 or 28 or 88, there's nothing better than the Caribbean. And I was able to take this photograph at Half Moon Cay on a Holland America
I
cruise
don't think
last
it shows
February.
it. There we go. There we go. Oh, you took that photograph.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're about to run out of time.
Okay.
And I'm going to say goodbye and thank you so much for joining us today. I've had a good time, and I'm glad that you have joined us and have watched Anytime is Travel Time. While we're closing out the show, Jean and I are going to look at some more of her goodies here, and we're going to plan a trip for somebody, and we'll see you next time on In Praise of Age. Jean, let's look at this good stuff here while what else have you brought that we can
thank
look
you,
at?
Bobbie. Canada by rail is very important.
Well, I must be going, got a game at 3. Then kids to be tutored, they're counting on me. It's a brand new century, and we're rocking. We paid our dues all those years, and it's so nice to be switching gears. It's a grand new century, and it's the senior life, the senior life, the senior life for me.